Alright, so I'm going to make a video today on rebuilding these control arm ends that are from the Rough Country short arm kit. So these are a little bit dirty, but I was having some knocking noises in my suspension, and I found that these are the problem. And you'll know that they're the problem when you can move these by hand. You shouldn't be able to move these by hand, right? That's really loose. Now, the reason I'm doing this video is because I didn't see anything on the Rough Country on YouTube for rebuilding these Rough Country control arms. A lot of people just replace them. I don't think people know, some people might not know, that you can buy rebuild kits for these. Now you have to call Rough Country directly to get these rebuild kits. They're not bad. They're like $12 a piece. I went ahead and bought enough to rebuild 8, because there's 8 control arms, right? 4 in the rear, 4 in the front. So, and then you'll see there's 2 different sizes, 2 different part numbers. You have the 41, 44 bag. That's for the larger, the lowers. And then you have the 41, 41 bag. That's for the smaller uppers. Like I said, I got 8 kits to do all 8 of mine. I actually already replaced my control arm ends for the lowers. My control arms for the lowers have been replaced already with the Rusties, just because I didn't know that you could buy these. When I called Rough Country, they said yes. Or I actually emailed Rough Country asking about it, and they said they sell them. If it's not listed on the website, call the sales rep, and they will have what you need. So these are the kits that I bought. All 8 to my house was $105. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I took these off just to make off the control arm, just to make it easier to film. You don't have to do that. It's just really removing the snap ring. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove the snap ring and pull this joint out, so that way we can see what it looks like and everybody can see what it looks like. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, so I'm just gonna go ahead and take this snap ring out and take them apart, and we're gonna see exactly what it looks like. Once you have the snap ring out, which is pretty easy to do as long as you have good snap ring pliers, and you have this little washer you have to get out. Try to film this with one hand. You don't have to have a pick to get these out, but I find it just a little bit easier to get the pick out and pull these little washers out. And then you should be able to knock this out with a hammer or something. It should pop out. All right, so it comes out like this. And I found that if you reverse it on this back side with opposite the part number and whack it with a mallet pretty good, the whole thing pops out like that. Pretty straightforward once you get the snap ring out. And then we are going to be replacing the snap ring and the liner. So that's what the replacement piece is that Teflon liner. That's what we're replacing. That's what gets to making the noise. So I'm going to take a rag and clean this up, and then we'll reverse it. So this is it goes in this way. So this little flange end right here, that goes up. That's up. So when you knock it out, you're knocking it out from the back side, and this whole thing pops out. There we go. The whole thing pops out. All right, so let's get to, and then this should be too hard to get off there. It's just some like fingers. It's going to be easier with 2 hands, but Yeah, it'll be easy with 2 hands. You can feel it. It'll move with 1 hand, but it's just, you're gonna need 2 hands to grip it because it's a little slick. And you can hear this a little grinding. I probably could have greased these more, but kind of, you can hear it's kind of rough and not smooth. All right. All right, once you get everything cleaned up, right? Nice and clean inside there. And it's about reversing the process. And that's getting these back into place, which again is probably easier with 2 hands than it is with 1. So we'll see how this goes. And there we go. That's 1. And you can see right automatically it's a lot harder to turn, which is what you want. You don't want this to be super easy to turn. And this isn't directional, right? This is just a ball. All right. So. All right. Once you do that, then you're just dropping these bad boys back into here and knocking them in. So that way you can put the snap rings back on. So let me go ahead and do that real quick. So you want to knock it in. You'll see there's like a little bit of a, where's my pick? There it is. There's a small little groove right here. You want to knock it in past that. I'm just using a dead blow, not using anything crazy, just to be able to knock that in. And it should be, and this is, if you'll notice, that these are now really hard to turn by hand, which is what you want. You want these things to be really stiff. It's like I'm gonna have to use a screwdriver to get that one lined up right. But then you just drop in your washer. So the washer goes in, and you put your snap ring in. Snap ring pliers. Come on, focus camera. Okay. There you go. Snap ring in. Now that's a rebuilt joint. Add some grease to it before you put it in. A couple shots. Clean up your excess grease. And that's it. Bob's your uncle. Again, washer, snap ring. So, like I said, I took these out just to make it easier to film. Now, when you take these things apart like this, what you want to make sure is that you measure from the center or from the end to the end of your control arm. So this is the end of your control arm right here. You want the bolt hole and bolt hole distance to be exactly the same when you put this back in, so you don't have to worry about messing up your alignment. But it's pretty straightforward. You want this thing to be nice and solid, hard to move. Can't move it by hand type thing. You can move them by hand. You need to rebuild them. Make sure you shoot some grease in there. Like I said, I was told to use synthetic grease with these. I don't know if it really matters a whole lot, but that's what I was told. Pretty straightforward. I think I've been at this for like 15 minutes. You don't have to take these out to do this. You can do this under the Jeep. I just, like I said, took this out to make it easier to film. Cool. Hopefully this helps somebody. Again, these are short arms for a Jeep TJ. Wrangler TJ, mine's a 2000. These are rebuild kits for them. Rough Country for their control arms, short arm kit. That's the part number 4144, and then that's the uppers slightly smaller. I'm sure this probably works for the long arm kit too, but I just don't know. I don't want to say that without knowing. Yeah, awesome.